Hey guys, this is Raymond. You're watching RPadTV 3000. Thanks so much for hanging out today. I have a very special guest kicking off a very special series. This is going to be 4 episodes of Raymond's Guitar Heroes. And my first guitar hero is the founder and CEO of Hellbent Games, an awesome studio in Canada, a fine kingdom up north. Christopher Mair, or we can just call him Chris. I call him my friend.
You call me Zoe's boss.
I do, but we're not publicly.
Yeah. How are you, Ray?
I'm good. How are you, Chris?
I'm great. I'm doing very well.
Excellent. So I do want to get into the guitar stuff. That's what we're going to mostly talk about, but it would be impolite to not ask how things are going with your company. What's new with Hellbent?
Good. We released 4v1 asymmetrical multiplayer horror title this summer called Video Horror Society, or VHS for short. Lots of people call it VHS. In July, and it's been really fun. We've been building an audience, and the game's adding new stuff to it all the time. It's a live services game, so it's busy all the time. It's been really fun.
So guys, please check out VHS. It's pretty awesome. I played a little bit of the beta before I hurt myself last year, and then I played none of it.
I hope that wasn't because of the beta.
No. Although that would be weird if you could give me immune issues through a video game.
I hope not. I'll put that at the front. We'll have to have a warning about that.
So, Chris, you're one of my favorite people to bump into on the road. We have a lot of common interests, from like pro wrestling, hair metal, heavy metal. And I've recently discovered or rediscovered my love of guitar during COVID. And you're one of the first people I think of in the video game business that, plays guitar, you play in bands, you record music, and you're a collector. So I wanted to talk to you, my first guitar hero, about guitars. Let's kick off with what attracted you to the guitar? How did you get started playing, and who are your early influences?
I mean, when I was a kid, I liked music a lot, and no one in my family played music at all, but we listened to music in the house. So I was always like listening to the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and Elton John and stuff like that. That's my mom's playlist, basically.
Right.
And Stevie Wonder. And so there was just a ton of music around all the time. And I really wanted to play piano when I was a kid. I just thought it was interesting. So I got like a couple little tiny toy keyboards. And but then I lived in really small towns in rural northern Alberta in Canada, and we there was only like one piano teacher in my small town, and she had too many students, so I couldn't get. And our school didn't have any music at all. We learned the triangle and the recorder, and that was about the end of it, and you were done. So it wasn't until I was about 14 or 15 I got a guitar. I asked for a guitar, and then started playing, and was pretty shortly after that I started playing in some bands. I mean, they weren't very good, but we were playing around town at school events or whatever we could play at, just learning what we could. It was before the time of YouTube and being able to learn stuff online, so it was like get the album and play it 1,000 times and fight over what you think it's actually playing there. And
So what kind of stuff did you play in your school bands?
We started off with it was always metal when I was a kid. So I started off with like things like Big City Nights by the Scorpions and AC/DC songs and stuff like that. So then, but we slowly moved, we got really into like heavier thrash stuff for quite a while. So Anthrax, Megadeth, Metallica, Slayer, that stuff for quite a while.
Wow.
Sepultura. Yeah. We were quite into that. Then, I mean, we also played like Nirvana and the Cult and stuff like that. It all shifted all the time. It was kind of a flow of music through that period.
Right. How did your tastes evolve as you got older? What kind of music did you find that you like to play?
I mean, then I listened to a lot of the heavier stuff, but I just listened to everything. I've got the most, I think I confuse my car every time I play songs because they can never make a set list for me. They're always confused by. But I mean, I'm always been really into funk music, so Parliament, Funkadelic, and Bootsy, and all, and obviously James Brown, all that stuff going back, Tower of Power, like that stuff's always been huge for me. So I always listened to that, but I never really played it in bands. But and then obviously Stevie Wonder and Prince, big fans of that type of music as well. But in bands, I was always playing whatever all the guys wanted to play. So we always played more like metal and rock and things like that. So, but my music over the ages has changed. I mean,
Yeah.
I've always just listened to everything. So I always like discovering new stuff. I do find I'm discovering less new stuff now. I like to go back to comfort music. So it's more stuff I listened to in the 80s, 90s that I find is more comforting for me, I guess. That's like,
Yeah.
it's harder to find new bands, but I still listen to like new stuff as I discover. It's just different. But I lately, I mean, my musical taste has changed just because I'm just listening as I'm writing more music, because during COVID, I actually bunkered down and wrote a lot of music and did a lot of covers, and
Wow.
which was really great because I hadn't really focused on the music for a while. I actually went to music school when I was in college.
Oh,
I studied jazz guitar and music, and but I never ended up doing that. I studied that, and then I studied English in school and ended up becoming a video game designer. So I never really had the chance to like do music professionally.
so wait. Jazz guitar, English, video game designer. How? Please explain.
It actually works really well because in jazz guitar you're studying music theory, so it's a lot of like learning and trying to figure out where the music came from, and then you're doing a lot of juries and performance. So you're preparing and practicing and then playing in front of someone. So for me as a game designer, a lot of my job is to study and learn about the history of something when I'm making a game, but also presenting something to go pitch to somewhere. That's what I did all the time, was pitching games and coming up with an idea and pitching it. So getting over those fears of sitting in front of a teacher and with a small little group, and being like a little jury where you're being judged in front of them, and you have to play perfectly this small little piece. That's pretty frightening. For me, it was terrifying when I was in school, and it really helped me get over that. But then and then English studies I did afterwards because I was really into creative writing. So I was really into that, like writing, and that sort of fits with the music and fits with game design as well, because we're writing stories and narratives and things like that. So it all kind of worked out really well. Actually, I think I hate to say this, but I think it's almost a better program than some of the programs I've seen. Some of the things I've seen that they teach for game design now, because a lot of game design these days isn't teaching game design; it's teaching like things like programming and art and things around game design, but they're not really teaching like the thrust of some of the game. Like they do statistical game design and things like that, but they're not really doing like narrative game design is a hard one to teach. So it's anyway. I liked what I took in school. I think it really added up to making me, and my math grades were bad. I wasn't great at math. I'm not bad at math. I just didn't care about it. So I didn't put any effort into it. So when I went to school, I actually applied to do some computer classes, and they were like programming style stuff. And they were like, your math's not good enough. You have to take this math before you do this. And I was like, I don't want to do that. So I'm happy I became a game designer. It's really what fits me really well. So.
And I'm totally not kissing your ass here, but I think there's a specific type that I would use to describe most game designers that I've met. And you are not that type. This explains a lot. I mean, your background is so well-rounded that you're quite different from most of the game.
Well, it's rounded accidentally. Like I sort of came to it in a weird direction. But when I started in the design, there weren't a lot of game designers to like shape yourself after. Most of the game design was done by a programmer, an artist, or a producer, or something on the team. There weren't like designated game designers. And now we've got narrative game designers and systems game designers and like everything. I've done world designers. Like I used to be a map designer. So I mean, I'm all over the place. I've done everything. I've scripted, done everything, because it is nice having that sort of well-rounded background. It really opens you up to learn things.
How about the improvisation aspect of jazz? Has that helped you out professionally at all?
That was probably the hardest thing when I first went to music school, is that because of jazz studies, we had to learn sort of improvisational styles right away. And it was so different than what I had learned before that. Like I was learning before that in like a basement playing along to like rock and metal songs, right? So those are pretty 4/4 straight up stuff with not a lot of improv. There's a solo, there's a bridge, there's two verses, there's a chorus. I mean, it's pretty straightforward stuff. And when you get to jazz, like they sort of throw a lot of that away and say, jump in and feel this and try this. And I appreciate it so much more now. I wish I was able to go to music school now with what I want to learn from music, because when I was there, I think I missed out on a lot of it because it was scary to me and stuff. But I think it definitely, jazz is like, when I was in New York just recently, I went and saw some jazz in clubs, and it was awesome, just like taking it in from a different perspective. And I think I have a lot more maturity and a lot more appreciation for subtleties of what's happening and how it's orchestrated. And those guys in clubs like that they're purely, I mean, they have a background idea what the song is, but they just go, and it's really awesome seeing someone open up like that and be able to just let music out of there. the melody flow out of their body like that. So.
Let's talk about some of the guitar players you've admired. Early on, you mentioned you wanted to study piano. So when you talked about Stevie and Elton, that made sense.
Yeah.
You brought up Prince, who was a wonderful guitar player. Who are some of the guitar players you've admired over the years? And let's contrast like the guys you admired as a teen to the guys you've appreciated now.
And Prince is an interesting one because when I was a kid, I loved Prince's songs, and I never thought of Prince as a guitar player. I know it, like he had in Purple Rain, he had the guitar with him all the time. I never really thought of him as a guitar player because I didn't in his videos, he didn't really like strut the guitar around, but seeing live performances now since he's passed and stuff like, I never got to see him live, which was, but
oh, wow.
I know I really, really wish I had, but seeing him play now, I'm like, he was just phenomenal on guitar and bass and anything he touched, just amazing player. But as a kid, I never thought of him as a guitar hero because it never fit that to me. But yeah, Elton and Stevie were piano heroes for sure. I loved that, and some of the early Billy Joel stuff and things like that it was amazing hearing like what they could do with the singer-songwriter piano stuff was really cool. I mean, and Stevie could play any instrument. He's just amazing player. But guitar heroes, yeah, I mean, obviously, I was listening to Eddie Van Halen. I was listening to all of the Led Zeppelin and all the AC/DC stuff. I never really put. I wasn't that guy who had like George Lynch posters on my wall or whatever. I wasn't into guitar players more than I was like. I was never a lead player. I still am not really a lead player. I can play some leads, but that's not my thing. I really like to write compositions more than solo. So it wasn't really about to me about who can play the best or the fastest. I was never an Yngwie Malmsteen fan. I couldn't get into the.
Right.
I mean, I really like Paul Gilbert. I thought he played some really interesting stuff because it was really melodic and he didn't always need to go 1,000 miles an hour even if he could. Where Joe Satriani didn't always do that for me. Like it was, and same as Steve Vai. Steve Vai could play some sort of stuff, and I loved the stuff he did with the early David Lee Roth albums and things like that. But when he gets on his own, he gets a little too stuck in like Zappa mode and wants to just make like a lot of stuff, and it's sometimes overwhelming for me.
Sometimes it's too much. It's funny that you mentioned Steve Vai because he was one of the guys that got me into guitar, partially because of the David Lee Roth stuff. Van Halen, maybe I was too young to appreciate at that time. You know, I always loved their music, but seeing Steve Vai with David Lee Roth, and this might sound lame, but seeing Steve Vai in Crossroads, that
no, absolutely,
like
that movie so cool. That movie was pivotal for me. Watching Crossroads, I made me really appreciate like because they weren't like the solo at the end was like obviously a big moment.
Yeah,
but the playing through that was amazing. There's some really great playing in that. But then watching him like just sort of like fight through the licks and stuff, it was really fun for me as a kid. That was like really inspirational. I think a lot of us came in for Van Halen. Like a lot of us. Like Van Halen existed on 5 albums before 1984, right? But we didn't show up until 1984. So we started with the keyboard stuff and Jump and things like that, which is a great album, but we didn't really, and then obviously like the Beat It solo and stuff like that. But we got to know Eddie pretty quickly. We went back through his catalog and learned his stuff, but we didn't live through all of that, right? So but then we went through the Van Hager stuff going forward. So I mean, Eddie was just persistent in everything through all that time.
So my path kind of went as someone for the guys that I appreciated. I went Steve Vai, and then Steve Vai got me into Satriani, and then I don't know what happened. I realized I'm never going to play like these guys.
Yeah, that's where I hit too. The same wall I hit. Yeah, I'd hear something and go, "This is amazing." I'd sit down and try to learn it, and I was just like, "Wow, I'm never gonna." I took lessons. Like the very first lesson I think I took on guitar. I think the first song I learned was "Wait." By White Lion.
We spoke about Vito Bratta. I think
we did. Yeah.
Oh, I wish he had a longer career, but because
me too. He was a music like amazingly melodic player.
Yeah,
like, super great player. And another great player I think that really inspired me was Jakey Lee, who played with Ozzy on Bark of the Moon. Yeah, he was. I mean, his stuff was just beautiful playing. I know everyone's like, oh, it has to be Randy Rhoads, which I love Randy's stuff, but Randy was fast but Jakey Lee was more bluesy, and I'm not a super bluesy guy, but the way he played the blues, I really, really liked his style.
So as I got older, I just started appreciating more, I guess, melodic players, like you said, and I realized that I like single coil guys. I like, I love Hendrix, I love Brian May.
Brian May. I forgot about Brian May. Queen is my I love the game. That album is just one of my favorite albums from top to bottom. Like, it starts with Dragon Attack. I'm just all over that album. I just love it. Such a good album.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you into Frusciante at all? He's probably, of the more recent guys, I guess he's my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, Blood Sugar Sex Magic was a huge album for me. I just, the raw sound he got and the funk sounds. I mean, obviously I'm like coming from a funk loving background. They Freaky Styley was amazing. But it was very small. But Blood Sugar Sex Magic, the sounds were so big. I mean, they just opened it up. Everything they did, like Rick Rubin really like got them to record everything. Like, it was just, it sounded like pure passion to me coming out onto the sound waves. I mean, that album really blew my mind. It's still one of my favorites. I think his playing specifically on a lot of the tracks moving forward in Red Hot Chili Peppers. And I don't always love Anthony's vocals, but Flea is like amazing.
Yeah,
like, just amazingly melodic. And when Flea and John and Chad get together and play, and I do like Anthony, I just don't think he's always the best part of the band. I think the other guys are doing something on a completely different level sometimes.
Could not agree more with you. That's so funny. One of my friends, longtime reader listeners, huge RHCP fan, and he thinks of them as a super band, and I'm like, almost. like vocally,
yeah.
I don't know.
No, I mean, on some songs he makes it their soul to squeeze. Like, his vocals are great. Like, he really gets to a lot of places, but sometimes it feels like he's talking about some weird little poem that doesn't really match what everyone else is. They're playing some really inspired stuff, and he's not quite at the same thing. Yeah.
I actually really love that song, but I cannot not think about Coneheads when I hear
that's the Coneheads soundtrack.
I'm like, oh. And then I think about the video, and then but I actually learned that solo a few weeks ago. Really easy solo, but
it's to get it right, you really have to play the vibrato exactly right to make that feel like the bends have to be like just perfect for that to feel like the solo. So
I do not play it that way. That right now. Before we continue, I want to give a shout out to my friends at Journey Instruments. Journey was kind enough to sponsor these 4 episodes, and they are known for 2 things. They make carbon fiber guitars, which are tremendous for traveling. Carbon fiber does not get affected by humidity and temperature changes the same way that wood does, so they make for wonderful travel guitars. I use one myself. This is the Journey Road Trip. So I could take this everywhere and don't have to worry about it, don't have to worry about the neck changing, anything happening to the body, because it is not wood. It is carbon fiber composite. Excellent for travel. And they also make collapsible guitars where you can quickly take the neck off and it collapses into a bag. They originally made the original Journey Overhead, which is a smaller guitar, but more recently they have the Journey First Class. This is a bigger guitar, similar in size to my Road Trip, so you get a bigger, fuller sound, but it's collapsible, as you can see here. In that middle image, there's that screw in the back that lets you collapse the neck easily. And then there's this bag here. It folds up into this wonderful bag. It fits into an overhead compartment for most airlines. And it's really just a wonderful, different, unique instrument. And I highly recommend it. Go check him out at journeyinstruments.com.
Yeah, I saw those ones. And that's one of the things, traveling with guitars is a pain.
Oh, yeah.
I traveled to, I played at a friend's wedding in Hawaii. And I traveled with one of my jumbo acoustics, and my case got damaged because it had to go underneath the plane, or else I had to pay for another seat and buckle it in. And I saw those Journey ones, and they collapsed down and go. They literally showed them in the video, like sliding one under the seat. And I have to admit, I was pretty jealous seeing how nice that would be, because traveling is never fun with an instrument. And like you said, temperature wise, I mean, or humidity wise, like, it's different everywhere you live. So traveling from where you live to like Hawaii could make your guitar completely go out of sorts. So how
did your guitar arrive? Because what season was it in Vancouver when you left?
It was in May, so it was okay. I mean, the guitar was fine. The case got damaged. So one of the strap locks got damaged, and I actually had to put some magnets and stuff to fix it, which I hate having damaged stuff. I like stuff to be nice.
Right.
But if your guitar is with you on the plane and you can carry it by yourself, I mean, that's way nicer.
Yeah, and you far less to worry about.
Yeah.
So since we're in the gear tip, can we talk about some of your favorite guitars, amps, pedals? What do you like to use and what do you like to play with?
Well, like you said, I play in bands, but I actually play bass in the band I
Yes.
play in. And there's a story about that. I actually broke my pinky finger when a friend had asked me, "Hey, do you want to play in a band?" I hadn't played in years with other people. I really wanted to. This is like 2016, and he said, "Hey, do you want to play?" I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to." And then I broke my finger right before we started playing, and I was in physiotherapy fixing my pinky finger. I was playing soccer and the ball hit it and dislocated it really badly. And it's fine now. I can play again, but I started playing bass in the band because bass is an easy instrument. You only need 3 fingers. I found that was wrong, um, but it got me through the first few shows, and I found out I really like playing bass, and it makes sense because I love funk, and a lot of the funk
Oh yeah.
is like the guitar, but a huge part of the funk is the bass.
Right.
So I've been learning a lot more. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm a great funk player on bass, but I'm learning more. And I've been playing for like 6 or 7 years or whatever on bass now, and I've acquired some basses. So I have like a Fender American. It's like behind me somewhere. I think you can see it right back there somewhere. That's
Uh-huh.
right down there. A jazz that I play on. That's my main sort of one. I have another. I have a black jazz as well. The other guitar behind me there is actually a guitar I had handmade for me back when I was in metal. So it's a very metal guitar. It's the dual humbuckers. It's got
Nice.
the hockey stick headstock on it and everything. So, but it's actually weighs 1,000 pounds because it's bird's eye maple. So
Oh wow.
it's really heavy for long shows. It's not great, but it's I still play it a lot. It sounds really good, and I love playing it in the studio here. It's really nice having something to play here. My favorite guitar I own is probably I have a Tele Plus, the 3
Oh.
pickup
Mhm.
Tele Plus, like a 1997 in a light blue, which I love. It's my favorite guitar. It's on the wall in the house. I play it all the time. But I have some really nice instruments. I have a very new Les Paul Special. I guess it's a Les Paul Special. It's TV yellow,
Okay.
which is really nice. I have a 1972 Gibson SG Super Deluxe, which a friend of mine just said, "Hey, do you want to buy my guitar?" And I'm like, "Sure." I didn't know what he was talking about. And he said, I said, "What is it?" He said, "It's a Gibson." I said, "Sure." And I said, "What? How old is it?" He goes, "I don't know how old it is." And I bought it off of him, and it's been an amazing guitar. It's not in mint condition. It's been played, but it's never been broken. So
Right.
but it's got a Bigsby on it. It's really an awesome
Wow.
instrument. And my amp I bought when I was a kid because I needed to play metal loud. Was I went to Mainly Music in Edmonton, and the guy who worked there, Rod, I remember the guy. He sold me an amp of his. He's still a touring musician. I still actually friends with him. And I got a Marshall 100-watt super lead MK2, like a 1973, and I still have that, which is a loud amp though. The problem with that one is like without an attenuator, it's like it's it's all the sound. I used to play it in my basement of my parents' house, and all the plates would shake upstairs when I had the volume at like 2 on it. So, but it's a nice amp, but I mean it's not a great amp for playing. Like, it was great for metal when we played out in shows, but it wasn't great for playing in small venues or anything like that. So, and I have a Hot Rod Deluxe I play through now a lot, and I have one of the JHS little black boxes on it to just keep the volume down so I can play it anywhere, and it's nice. It's a big amp still, but yeah. And I have so many guitars. I think I've got, I don't know, 25 or more
Nice.
guitars, and I have 5 basses now, and I have, I don't know, tons of ukuleles and mandolins and any stringed instrument. I love collecting a bunch of different instruments, things like that.
Now, do you think that there's a lot of video game fans that are way into collecting? Does that translate into guitar collectors as well? That aspect of being into guitar?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't start off collecting, and a lot of my instruments I have are things that I just liked. So I don't buy things to collect them. I try to buy
Got
things I play.
Right.
So I'm using all my gear. I don't have anything that's like a museum piece that I put to the side. So I think I do have a bit of the gotta catch 'em all, just because I love new guitars. I like you. I play like the single coils. I'm really into playing. But I have a flying V with like dual humbuckers in it. And it's I like playing it for like some of the music I do is metal still, so I still want to have that sound. So, but I mean, I think collecting to me that's mostly what I'm trying to do is shape everything I buy now to be something that I'm really going to use because
Now
I
that,
I have so much gear. Not using it feels bad. And during COVID, when we were locked down, I started using my gear. I realized some of it wasn't the right gear, so I'm trying to get to the right gear now. So.
how has your taste in gear changed as your taste in music has changed? Were you always a single coil guy, or is that something? Because that's something I realized way later that, oh wait, I should be playing like tellies and strats and.
I've always liked tellies because of the body shape, because it fits me really well. I've never actually owned a Fender Strat. My one I had built for me is a Strat, but it's not like a Fender Strat. I mean,
Right.
I have 4 tellies, and I play them probably the most of everything. I have a 72 reissue, and I have another sort of standard American telly, and then I built a telly. So yeah, so I mean, I think with those guitars, I think they just match me really well. And my hands are like little short sausage fingers, and
Same.
so yeah, so I mean, I want a guitar that fits me, a smaller neck. And I mean, some of the Gibsons are great. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the Les Paul neck is pretty heavy duty. I've also got an Epiphone Les Paul that's got a pretty heavy duty neck on it. But the V's actually got quite a small neck,
Oh,
which is nice. Like it's surprisingly small for a V. So, but I end up, if I have to, I end up going towards Telecasters because they fit better, they sound better for what I'm trying to make, and I don't know, just they match me nicely. So.
yeah. It took me a pretty long time to understand the Telecaster twang and
Yeah.
the feel of that, and then it just clicked one day, and like, oh, like,
Yeah.
did you ever
It's
have?
a bright sound if you're not. If you're
Yeah.
trying to make like heavy stuff, it's a hard sound to match into the heavy stuff. But I never really make like I do if I'm like I've recently been recording some heavier stuff that I've been writing. I will record that on guitars that are heavier guitars because it
Right.
makes more sense. But when I'm writing like pop stuff or rock stuff that's not that, I'm always playing on the Telecaster. So.
But I've been surprised at how versatile tellies actually are. I mean, you're not doing thrash with it by any means,
Yeah.
but you can do, like Jimmy Page used a telly early on. So you can
Yeah.
do a lot of hard rock with it, country, jazz. It's
Yeah, and pedals help out with that too,
yeah,
right? I mean, you can
yeah,
take a pedal and beef up your sound quite easily on a telly. It's not a hard instrument to throw something in front of it, an amp that's going to
right.
make you beef it up, right? So.
But it just makes me like Leo Fender got so much right with that in, was it 1951 or whatever?
Yeah, 51 for the broadcaster, yeah. But I
And
mean, I think if you look back, like, everyone got it right in 1959. Like, I don't know what that year was, but everyone got it right. I mean, Gretsch got it right, and I mean, obviously, their floating bridges needed some work, but I mean, that's the sought-after year is the 1959.
right.
Like the Stray Cats, that's what they were playing, was like that guitar, right? The Gibsons, like the Les Pauls from 1959, everything from 1959 is I don't know what happened in that year, but all of them. But we've really I mean, we've changed a few things here and there, but the guitars haven't changed a lot since
Yeah.
then, which is amazing because it's like you'd imagine there'd be like these big changes, but I mean, it's really like other than like pickups that are more soundproof and aren't leaking, and like better action and some better bridges and things like that. I mean, really the instrument was defined then, and a lot of people, like when I built mine, I actually went to the old saddles, back to the original saddles, and
Oh.
I kept it really old school. I didn't put like a Floyd Rose on it or anything. I didn't make it a metal guitar. I made it into like an old school telly. So.
Let's talk more about the guitar you built. What kind of work did you do on it? Well, so you mentioned it was a telly style. Why did you decide to build one in the first place?
I bought a book when I was 18, and it's like how to build your own guitar. And I started reading it. I was really into to Queen at the time, and Brian May built one with his dad, and he still plays that same guitar, right? So I was like, this can't be that hard.
They used wood from the fireplace for the neck for the red.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I didn't build my own neck. I built the body, and painted the body, and well, I actually had it painted. I mean, I did all the work on designing and building out that.
Right.
I mean, I really wanted to build one of my own instruments, just something I could have that was my own. So I built, and I really wanted to build something like I said, like a traditional telly, like not build. Other than I did go a little thicker on the neck, so I did end up shaping the neck again. So I did do some work on the neck to make it sort of smaller for my hands, because it was a bigger shaped neck. It wasn't the classic C. It was more of a bigger V. So
what kind of woods did you go with?
the body is alder. So I went to Woody's Wood Barn, I think it's called, out in near here. And this guy I went and found, like I went and looked at old pieces of wood, and he talked about how the different woods resonated, not for guitar necessarily, but just for how the wood was. And he had dried the wood for a long time, and he had an amazing selection of wood. So I actually bought and picked out my own wood, and then I pieced and built the blanks for. I actually built 2 bodies. I haven't finished the second guitar, but I built 2 bodies, and then I had to, like, there's a lot of work on building a body to get it right. I mean, I had to plane the wood, I had to shape the wood, I had to route all of the cavities in it, I had to make sure the neck was cut. And luckily, when I pieced it together, I know a luthier in town here, he gave me some tips on how to do it, but I went to him thinking, like, I'm just going to pay this guy and to get him to finish everything. And I went to him and he's like, I'm not going to charge you anything. I'm going to tell you how to finish the guitar, and you're going to finish the guitar. So
Nice.
he wouldn't do anything for me, but he really taught me a lot of tricks and tips to get it the right spot, which is awesome. I mean, he does other work for my other instruments,
Right.
setting them up and things like that. So he just felt like, you know what, you really need to finish your guitar. So he really pushed, and that was during COVID. So I had been working on the guitar for about 6 years, and I sort of put it aside because I got too busy. And during COVID,
You
I
were
said,
not.
I'm not. Well, I was busy, but I just had a little bit more space in my life because
Right.
everyone else was at distance, so we had just a little. It just felt like you could breathe a bit more. I know it's weird for a lot of people, like, isolation was really hard, and it was definitely hard for my family members, and I know that. But for me, it was I reconnected with my friend who was a drummer, my best friend from like high school, and we're still really good friends all the time. We just hadn't played in bands together, but he got his gear set up so he could record at the same time, and I just had more time, so I worked on things like finishing that guitar up and buying guitar pedals that make sense for me and things like that. So yeah, it was really fun. Finishing the guitar was really great, and it's a nice playing guitar. I really love it, and I'm really happy that it turned out. I had bought parts for that guitar in every city I'd been in for like years, trying to find like all the exact little pieces I wanted, and it was really nice putting it all together and realizing I did buy the right parts for it. So
Did you do the soldering and stuff as well?
yeah, he showed me sort of the basic layouts you could do and some modifications you could do, and I did all the soldering for it. So it
That's
was
awesome.
yeah. Well, I make pedals too. One of the guys at my
Oh,
office, my lead programmer Roger, is he did electronics engineering. So I was talking about guitar pedals one day, and he said we could make those. I'm like, what? And then we started looking online, and he makes the printed circuit boards, and we
yeah.
make pedals. Yeah, I made my first ones around here somewhere.
Did
I
you
can
do
grab.
a clone pedal? Like
Yeah,
some,
I'll show you 1 second. So the first pedal I ever made, you like it because it's got a Mexican wrestler on it.
aha, luchador. Nice.
Yeah, Hercules Ramirez. So
Oh,
yeah, so it's a triangle, Big Muff triangle. So
nice.
I
Oh,
made
wow.
it in 2010. Yeah, this is acid etched. I acid etched the pedal.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, so I found a cool picture of him, and yeah, so this is it's a Big Muff. It's a straight up Big Muff, but it turned out really nice, and it plays really nice. And I did a couple little mods to it, so it's the triangle version rather than being the traditional. But yeah, I've made lots of other pedals, envelope filters, and old fuzzes, and yeah, just fun circuits and
Super cool.
ST2s and things. Yeah, so it's really fun. So with that, Roger was like, "You got to learn how to solder properly." So I learned how to solder, and then he, with his making the printed circuit boards, he acid etches those. And I said, "Could you acid etch anything?" And he's like, think so. So I figured out how to. I did a bunch of reading online how to acid etch, and then it turned out pretty cool. Like getting the ink inside the acid edge, like it's all raised up and
Wow.
stuff like that. It turned out really nice. I really liked how it turned out. So it was really fun.
Just so you know, I've actually told people that you've built your own guitar, although I tell the story a little bit differently.
Oh, okay.
I said you went to the woods and you fought a tree, chopped it down, and you use that for the body. So if Chris Taylor ever asks if you fought a tree, that's why.
Oh, okay. I mean, we're
just
in Canada. In Canada, we have to fight trees all the time. There's windstorms around here a lot lately because it's been so dry in the summer, and almost every third week I have to fight a tree in my yard to get out of my yard. So
I am actually building a parts caster.
oh, cool.
But I probably won't finish it till maybe this time next year.
What kind of guitar is it?
It is a Jazzcaster. So
oh, nice.
Jazzmaster body, but Telecaster guts and layout.
And are you using like a Warmoth neck or?
No, a Warmoth body.
Warmoth body?
But Freestone neck.
Oh, cool.
They're a New York company.
Nice.
So hopefully all goes well.
So I was going to paint my guitar myself, and I got pretty close to doing that because I actually have a wood shop right below me in my garage here.
Oh, wow.
Because my parents were really into wood building stuff. So that's why I was like, I've got all the tools. I can build a lot of stuff. But the painting was something I wasn't like. I'd gotten so nice on the finishing of the guitar, and I got to a point where like I really wanted it to be perfect.
Right.
That I didn't want to risk doing it wrong and then have to do the next body and fix it and stuff like that. So I actually took it to a place in North Vancouver that does amazing guitar painting. But that was the part I was actually I took it to them and they went, "Did you sand this yourself?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh God, they're gonna tell me I did a bad job." They're like, "And you went to what, 400 grit on this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I was trying to get it perfectly smooth." Like, "Okay, we're gonna have to rough it up a bit to accept the paint." Like, I over sanded it. I was over meticulous with it. So I read too much online, and they're like, "Yeah, no, you don't need to sand it to that level because it won't accept the paint as well." But the paint job they did on it is stunning. Like, it's so beautiful. I did it in an off-white, like Fender off-white color. I actually picked one of the original tones from back in the day, and
oh wow,
and the tortoise shell pick guard on it. So yeah,
that's awesome. Did you do poly or nitro?
I did nitro on it, but it's a lighter amount of it, so it actually will wear through a bit. Yeah, I didn't want it to age wrong, so I didn't want it to look like it never change, sort of thing. So I wanted to.
But when the finish was done, was it pristine, or did you try to get that worn look?
Oh, I didn't relic it at all.
Okay.
No. Yeah, no, I
wasn't. Don't get that. Like, why do you do something to look old that you're making new or buying new? Like it.
I mean, I love the look of the Nash guitars and the way they relic. I don't know if you're familiar with Nash, but they make Fender clones that look stunning, and their relicing looks believable and looks really nice. But I don't know. To me, like my bass and stuff like that, I'm getting nicks and bumps on it from playing because I play a lot with
right. But
live.
That's really your story.
It's my bass. Yeah, it's my story. The other one's like having it worn where my arm doesn't actually rub against it is a bit weird. And having it like look like I soloed a bunch, and I didn't solo on that guitar. That never happened. Yeah,
that's why I totally don't get that relicing aspect.
Yeah, so I mean, my neck is a little relict in the fact that we sanded it and I sanded and shaped it to make it a little bit more mine. Right. But it just basically took the finish off, and it's not. Yeah.
Again, that's you though.
That is me. Yeah, because I needed it that way. Yeah. I know. I mean, I was recently in New York and I stopped at Rudy's Music, and they have some amazing guitars there. And the dude kept handing them to me and saying, "Here, play this." And like, I'm like, "This guitar is like $38,000. I don't want to play this guitar." But he handed me a Jazzmaster that was like really nice. I never really played Jazzmaster, so I was like, I think I need a Jazzmaster now.
So comfy for sitting.
Yeah, they balance so nicely, which is nice. And like I said, smaller body again, so it's not like Les Pauls are great, but they're heavy and they're big and they don't balance well on me. And the Flying V doesn't, like, I stand and play that, or I don't like it. Having to arc it on your leg to play it, it's just not reasonable.
It's funny that you mentioned Rudy's. I bought my second guitar ever there when I was in high school.
Oh, cool.
It was a Guild Thinline acoustic.
You still have it?
No, I sold a lot of things in college, so that I wish I did though. Yeah,
I weirdly haven't gotten rid of many guitars. I think I sold one to a friend. I had a Kramer Farrington. Do you remember the Kramer Farringtons? I just sold that to a friend because I didn't want it to go too far. And he'd played one in bands when he was in college or whatever, that age when he was touring. He actually toured in bands. And he'd gotten rid of his. So he was like, "You have one of those?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I sold it to him. But other than that, I think I've got my very first guitar still. I've bastardized that guitar. My wife painted it for me, and I took out pickups and filled them in, and where I filled them in sunk down because I didn't fill them properly. And I put a Floyd Rose on it. Oh my God, yeah.
What was your first guitar?
Oh, it was a clapper. It was a Series A. I don't know if you know Series A. They were like a cheap guitar. Like, it was so cheap. It was made out of like hopes and dreams. Nothing else. There's no good wood in it. It was like basically plywood inside when I was working on it. But I mean, I got to there's a guy in town in my hometown, and I lived in a small town, and he would he helped me put the Floyd Rose in it, but he actually wound his own pickups. And I actually wound the pickup that's in that guitar, which is kind of fun. I got to like figure out how to wrap the copper, and it was really cool. Yeah, it was learning how to do that was really neat. It doesn't sound sonically great because I'm not good at winding pickups, because imagine the first one I did wasn't a good pickup to do. But I do like getting hands-on and learning how to do that stuff, though, because it feels really rewarding.
So earlier we were talking about how you said they got so much right in 1959, but it seems like not a lot of technology has changed in terms of guitar making. Does that seem wrong? Because there's advancements in pretty much every other aspect of our lives, but guitar making seems so old school. And some things bug me about it, like the inconsistencies of woodworking. Like, say you make two strats out of the same wood, they probably won't weigh the same because wood is all different.
Yeah, wood's different. Totally different and weight different. Yeah.
You were talking about pickup winding. Like, if two people made the same pickup, they probably won't sound the same because there's so much with hand winding that can, it's very boutique-ish.
Yeah. And that's what I think, that's what like studios like Gretsch were back in the day, because these weren't done on a giant industrial lathe or anything. They weren't being built by a laser cut, whatever.
Right.
Like, you'd go in and every day there's a different luthier building a guitar at Gretsch. And so 1959, someone would go and pick up a Gretsch and play it and go, this Chet Atkins model, like, it's so good, it plays so well, or whatever, right? And then you go in and play the next one, and it doesn't play it like that because the next guy had different hands, and he wanted it different, or he set it up different. So each day was a hand-built guitar by a different person. And I think nowadays, if you're going to like a Fender or Gibson or wherever custom shop, they're hand building something, but they're trying to match specifically.
Yeah.
And they do that for the artists, right? They'll take Slash's Les Paul clone, and they'll make a Gibson Les Paul that tries to be that guitar exactly down the line, like tries to reproduce every piece of that, which is pretty neat. But that's not what was back in the day. And I think right now, I mean, trying to find a guitar, I know a lot of guitar players don't want to tour with their pristine classic guitars and stuff like that, so they'll get a clone guitar. I know that Neil Finn has a clone of his favorite guitar that he takes on the road, but he still takes his regular one on the road because he still doesn't love it as much. So I mean, it's guitar building is still unless you're going to like Ibanez and you're in a factory and you're just producing a bunch of them out of the same lot of like basswood or whatever, right? It's you can make it down to a science where you're just producing guitars, but the hand built ones are all going to still have some inconsistencies and personality to them.
Do you think there's technology? Like, I've really been into amp modeling lately. The Fishman Fluence pickups, I think, are really cool technology, especially for making pickups more consistent. Right? Do you think how do you feel about new tech invading the guitar world?
I mean, I like it. I don't actually very often amp. I don't mic my amps. I have all this stuff for miking my amps. I have tons of mics for that and stuff, but I don't have a great setup for keeping that up all the time. I keep some mics, like vocal mics and things like that, around because I'm using them all the time. But I actually use amp modeling for most of the stuff I record. I've been doing a bunch of songs lately, and most of it's done through amp modeling. I mix up the different amp modeling. I don't always use the same one if it's bias effects or whatever, like Guitar Rig 6 or whatever the newest one is. But I think they've done a lot of really nice stuff with that. I've been able to get some really nice tones with amp modeling. And I mean, bias effects does this thing where they you can actually imitate different guitars and have your guitar like a single coil sound like a humbucker and stuff like that. And it's pretty neat. Like it gets you a lot of distance where I mean, I do dream of the day. I'd like to build a smaller studio, like and I have an acreage, so I could maybe someday build a little space. It'd be nice to build a space where I could have the amp set up with mics and everything all the time. And I do reamp stuff, so I'll record guitars directly into my DAW, and then I'll go out through a reamp pedal and bring in like actual pedals because I like the sounds. That's why I like the other guys in my band. I'll play, like two guitar players in the band. They play with like effects units. They just play with the big
Right.
effects units, and I don't like that at all. I use pedals. My bass rig is all pedals, and my guitar stuff's all pedals because I like the sound of. I like changing my pedals. I like having these pedals that you can't make boutique pedal sounds in one of those effects rigs. You just can't do it. I mean, it doesn't sound the same. And so to me, I like the effects in here, but I still like to bring in some of those effects into. I like to mix both. It's fun.
I think they're getting close. Maybe soon they will. Like Kemper does some cool capture stuff. IK Multimedia, their new Tonex product, I think has a lot of potential. So
yeah, I mean they're all making distance on that. So I mean there's purists who will say you can't ever reproduce this, that, or the other thing. But when I'm producing music and mixing, I'm not using any outboard gear for that. I love using the plugins for that. I think it works really well. So I mean, I also don't know enough about outboard EQs, and I don't have enough money or space to buy the desk and all this space for that.
But one day.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, we'll see.
Now let's talk about each other's Mount Rushmore of guitars. Who would you put on your guitar Mount Rushmore?
Like the guitar I dream to have?
No, the people who are who do you think are the most influential people in the guitar world? And it's for you personally.
Yeah, for me personally, I mean the Beatles, after they stopped touring, I think some of the stuff they were doing was really amazing and influential, and they really opened themselves up to stuff that they didn't have to think about. How do I play this on tour? They just started making music. I mean, Paul's bass stuff switched from being pretty straightforward and simple stuff to being like so melodic, and he spent so much time, I think, just listening to Motown and learning that stuff. So that, and all three of the players in that band were like, I mean, all four of them are amazing. But Hendrix, obviously, huge change. A guy who came from playing in like sort of straight up bands and big bands and stuff like that, to all of a sudden like letting loose and being like, and also ushering in guitar pedals. Like he was the guy who really brought all those fuzz faces and everything to everyone. So that, to me, I mean, that's Hendrix. I love the melodic stuff about Hendrix. I love, I mean, he never liked his singing, but I think it really changed a lot. Yeah, I mean, there's players through the years. Obviously, Eric Clapton. Don't love his politics now, but I think he was a great player back. I mean, amazing player. There's so many good players. Like, like you said, John Frusciante. He's like an amazing player. Eddie Hazel, who played with Funkadelic.
Okay.
Yeah, he was an amazing guitar player. On Maggot Brain, he does like there's an 11-minute song at the beginning. He just like goes on and on playing. It's awesome hearing that. So I have so many players. I don't know. It's hard to, I'm not picking them because they can do so many notes. I just love sort of pieces and stuff that they do.
I think for me, I named all of them throughout this conversation. So I'm with you on Hendrix. Absolutely. Brian May, of course, John Frusciante, and I have to put Leo Fender up there because he made the stuff that so many.
I've never heard him play anything much though. I've never listened to Leo Fender's music if he made music. But I mean, what he did for the guitar, is amazing. Yeah. Absolutely.
So when are we gonna play? How about Dice? You're welcome to come over. We'll play some guitar.
I didn't even know you played until I saw all your guitars all of a sudden showing up on your social media and stuff like that. I'm like, wow, he's got some really nice guitars. Like
I'm terrible, I do it for fun and to make sure some neural pathways stay open. But
yeah, no, I mean, I'd love to play. I mean, we don't obviously live in the same town, but now that you have travel guitars, you could.
That's true.
You could come and play. But I think I have guitars you could borrow if you came up here.
Are you going to Dice next year?
I hope so. I didn't go this year, and I missed seeing everyone more than I didn't have a lot of meetings, and I realized the meetings weren't the important part. I really liked seeing people,
connecting. So. Yeah. Well, I can bring 2 guitars to whatever hotel it's at and just start playing in the lobby till they kick us. See how long that lasts.
Yeah. I went to Austin with my wife. Had one of her trips for her work, and they had a guitar in the hotel room, and I was like, this is awesome. So I just like you know what, I'm good. I'm just gonna hang out and play guitar, which was really cool. I mean, I think every hotel room should have a guitar in it.
Absolutely.
Then we could just bring the guitar from your room and my room, and we could just hang out wherever and play. So
Oh, you were in Ireland recently too.
I
Is that
was.
one of my favorite guitar companies? One of my dream guitar companies is there. Emerald.
Hmm.
They also make carbon fiber acoustics, not collapsible, but they make some gorgeous stuff. So you guys check it out if you're looking for a high end carbon fiber acoustic.
I know I never got a chance to go to Emerald, but I knew they were there. But it's still weird COVID time, so not a lot of places were open for tours and things like that.
That is true.
But I did get a chance to see melodically one of my favorite songwriters, Neil Finn, played with Crowded House there, and in a small castle in Limerick, and it was amazing. A couple thousand people outdoors at the castle watching the band I grew up listening to. So that was pretty cool. That's weird. Like in 1987, I was listening to thrash and everything like that, but I also loved Crowded House. I mean, that's and so it's all over the place.
Now, last question for both of us. Do you have any recommendations for lesser known guitar players that make cool music that you like? I'd love to learn more about these artists, and I'll give you two of mine.
Okay. Let me think. Do you know the band? Do you know the band Eels?
No.
Eels. They did "My Beloved Monster" on the Shrek soundtrack, and
a
couple other songs you might know. Novocaine. They only had a couple hits that really surfaced. I followed them for all of the years that they've been playing, and it's not, the guitar playing in it is really rhythm guitar playing. It's really like interesting guitar playing, but it's not. There's not any solos I can even think of, but it's just really wonderful stuff. Like it's just beautiful stuff, and I've seen them live a couple times. It's really great. And another guitar player. Wow. Yeah. I mean, I don't, like I said, I don't really like have a guitar heroes like
Right.
that are poster type guitar heroes. But.
So I'll give you two artists. I'm 90% sure you know both of them probably. So Greg Koch, he's one of my favorites. He does a really funky, jazzy kind of stuff. He does pictures for a lot of the companies I like, but I just love his playing and his personality.
Mm-hmm.
So when he demos stuff on YouTube, or when he even performs live streams at his home studio, I hear great music, but I'm also entertained by his rolling commentary. Just a funny dude and great player.
I love that when a player is like, I saw Beck years ago and he didn't talk at the show. Like between songs, he didn't say much. Like, he played amazing, but like just songs. All right, here's our next song, and it's like I was really hoping to like learn a little bit more about the artist and just watch them. Like that's one of the things, like during COVID, watching some of the artists like who hadn't played, jump up on videos, and just because they were lonely and bored and they wanted to play, and then they so much fun like listening to them talk more than it was. Even Paul Stanley jumped up and did a whole bunch of stuff during COVID, which was really great, seeing him just not processed, not pre-recorded, not anything, just him and a guitar playing and stuff like that. So, but I love it when a player can talk to the audience and they just, you love their personality as much as they're playing. It really endears you to the whole person. Yeah.
And it just deepens the connection between you and the artist.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I forgot. Before I get to my second artist, there's one thing I wanted to mention. You mentioned you never saw Prince live. One of my favorite concerts I went to is a show that he did in the Round.
Oh, wow.
And the band, he all of a sudden he stops playing and he's like, "Roll with it, Maceo." I'm like, Maceo Parker? Holy, is in your band?
I've seen Maceo Parker, God, probably 6 or 7 times.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I mean, I love Maceo Parker. I loved Maceo Parker's stuff with like he played on Popcorn with James Brown, and he's like shouts out Maceo, and I loved Maceo Parker's solo stuff, and I loved when he played with Bootsy, and I loved when he's such a
legend.
I'm not a big sax guy. I mean, some sax just doesn't sit with me at all. Maceo Parker is all melodic and speaks so directly to me, and I just love the way he plays. Like Clarence Clemens was another one, super amazing saxophone player, like just really spoke to me. But there's a lot of sax that I just sort of go, oh, it's a saxophone. I didn't know the song needed the saxophone, which is unfair. I know that's unfair because I just haven't really listened to a lot of it. But I mean, I do love funk horns, the horny horn type players from the funk stuff, and Maceo Parker. I saw him outdoors. I've seen him in small clubs. I've seen him like jazz festivals. I've seen him so many places. He's such a good player.
And horns are becoming cool now. What's that trombone game that everyone?
Yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah.
Sometimes I listen to that Diana Ross song, I'm Coming Out, just because I'm like, not a lot of songs have trombone solos. Let's give it this.
But when you hear something like that, that's like such a good piece, right? I mean, that's awesome. I mean, I didn't go seek out a lot more trombone, but I really love that piece. Like it just matches it so well. So
yeah. So the second artist that
I'll give you my second artist. I've been able to think while we've been talking. So
nice.
When I was in Austin, I got to when I was in Nashville, I got to go to Jack White's store, his Third Man Records store there, which Jack White, I was a big White Stripes fan, but I've seen Jack play with the Dead Weather. I've seen him play the Raconteurs. I've seen him on solo stuff. I mean, I love Jack's playing, and one thing I love about his playing is he surrounds himself with great musicians, and he bucks the trend of running tape behind him. He goes to a live show and has the band just know his whole entire repertoire. So if he's going to play something, he just jumps in and plays it, which is amazing. And so the set's different every night. So I love Jack's playing. I think he's a really great player.
Super talented, super amazing. The guy that my second artist that I'm recommending is from your neck of the woods. Actually, he's a Vancouver kid, J. Leonard J. He is a Filipino telly player.
I don't know that. Yeah,
he does some studio stuff. He's in a band called Trillo J because all three of them, their names start with J. I'll send you a link to.
I'd love to check it out. That sounds really cool.
Yeah. So he's another guy that helped me like understand what a telly can do. So yeah.
So I realized Jack White's not an unknown player. He's just one of the players I really like. So.
No, but you gave me an aspect of him that I didn't think of. So that
he actually sits all of his guitars in a U shape on stage, and then he walks up and looks at them and decides
what's right for the moment.
I'm going to play this song right now. Yeah, that's pretty cool to me. I mean, I've been to a lot of big concerts, and you can tell the lights, the background sounds, everything is all orchestrated. If they stopped singing and playing, a lot of it would keep going, and it's really cool to see a band that's just able to just pick up stuff and play. I mean, that's pretty cool. That's kind of like, I know they're playing big venues, but it's kind of like that small club feel in a big building, which is really cool.
Well, awesome, Chris. It was great catching up with you and great chatting with you and talking about guitar stuff. I got to learn even more about you, so which is very cool. And I can't wait to see you next, guys. Yeah. If you want to keep up with Chris's company, give Hellbent Games a follow on Twitter. Definitely check out VHS. And if you want to know what I'm up to, all my social media stuff is here. Subscribe, follow, like. Probably should have said that in the beginning. I'm really horrible at promoting stuff. But
I'll try to be better at promoting. VHSgame.com is where you can go to find out all about Video Horror Society.
I should have made that chyron. That is my fault. But guys, thanks so much for watching. And join me tomorrow on the beer pad where I'm going to try to convince Marcus that he should keep watching Rings of Power. And he's going to convince me to like some show with Chloe Grace Moretz on Amazon. I totally forgot the name. The Peripheral. He's going to convince me to watch The Peripheral. And we'll be back with the Guitar Hero series on Tuesday with ex-Game Pro and ex-OXM editor Dan Amrich. Catch you next time.